Nixon was basically the one JFK clone that lived the longest, and like I say, I believe had access to a cryogenic stasis chamber, where you'd pop out every couple of years, like 50 years or 20 years, and basically go on a killing spree and then go back inside. While his JFK clones were, I guess, maybe maneuvering for his other little clones to get into position. I don't know. Like I said, there are four. You can track them to four different cities in Europe, where basically they basically took over a city or two, and they would be spaced out a little ways. And then basically they would train armies, and then they would send their army against one of their other armies, and they're basically just having their armies attack each other, pretty much. Um, they didn't really care, it's basically just one city, and then they would have them attack another city or attack their other cities. Basically, they were just pitching their two sides against each other. Anyway, they did that for a while. There was about four of them that were running around, basically, in Europe or somewhere. They had taken over like a small city state, and then basically they would pretend to be governor or whatever, and had a false name, basically. And then there would be another one in another city. There's four of them around the world, basically, and they would pitch armies against each other, basically, pretty much from over there. Anyway, they would just make a mess, basically. So that's what JFK clones were doing. So anyway, eventually there's a picture of all three of them standing together. After originally there were 16 of them or something like that, but the other ones get killed in different things. They would just go on killing sprees, and then they would die, or they would get captured, and they'd be like, "It wasn't me, it was somebody else," or something like that. Or one of the other ones would break out, or or Nixon would show up to basically get them out of trouble, pretty much. He was like their daddy or something like that. Basically, their older version of them, pretty much. Um, there might have been two Nixons for all I know. I don't really know. Basically, it was just older JFK with a facelift, so shrug. Anyway, he was annoying for about 250 years or 500 years. So, and then eventually he went away and died. Oh, anyway, after we start killing him, we killed the first JFK clone, and then we got his brother, which probably wasn't really his brother or something like that. I don't know. They started getting facelifted to kind of try and change, and they actually look more like Jimmy Carter than real Nixon, like a cross between JFK and Jimmy Carter or something like that. So anyway, or something. I don't really don't know. I'm just basically randomizing with the pictures that I've seen and basically what you've seen and everything else like that. And like I say, I paid for the song where JFK, so JFK could get elected, and I was just helping out what I thought was a candidate. Of course, he wasn't really a candidate. He was a clone, and basically it was all a big setup. So anyway, yeah. And then once he got in there, he was pretending to be the dream blonde boy, super child, and then basically holding on to the White House for dear life. And like I said, originally he had actually gone to the White House and actually gotten with Jackie Kennedy because he thought that Jackie Kennedy owned the house, or Jackie Kennedy was my wife, or Jackie Kennedy was something. And she was really no one except for some flight stewardess or someone running away from somebody else. Probably another JFK clone. Like I said, they would play these games where basically all three of them would basically date. They would never be together. So they would basically go out and date a girl and sleep with her, and then one of the other boys would go and sleep with her. And they would just basically play the part. Because they all looked basically exactly the same. So like all like triplets or something like that, or quadruplets, basically. Very roughly the same or the same. And so this is all going on some year between like 1700 and 1900, something like that. It's very much a nightmare, basically, for a lot of different people. So anyway, because they don't understand that there's 16 or 30 of him. So anyway, eventually he starts trying to put Kennedys in power around the White House, but basically he's just basically pretty much putting himself around the White House and in power. So anyway, and they all just kind of work together to basically take over the planet or something. I don't really know. You have to ask him. So that's pretty much Nixon and JFK in a nutshell. And like I say, they really had no relation to the government. They just had access to the White House, and mostly just had access to the 100 mag clips and the Tommy guns. As I said, I think Al Capone or someone eventually busts his way in there and basically shoots a bunch of his guards or something. All I know is Al Capone did attack the White House at some point in time or something like that. They killed his family or something like that, and he was pissed off. So he hit him hard, where it would hurt. And I was like, "Yeah, get him, Al Capone." Anyways, I actually liked Al Capone. I was actually cheering for him because, like I say, I mean, it was Nixon versus, I mean, you had to be tough back in the old days. You really did. A lot of people didn't understand why certain people were being psycho. It's like, well, Nixon was psychotic. So is JFK. They're all psychotics. Anyway, they were doing all kinds of really horrible things. They had no regard for morality at all, as far as I can tell. So anyway, and that's why a lot of people they're trying to say these civilians or these other people had killed these people, but all the cars, there were like skid marks and stuff like that using both tires. And like I said, the only cars that actually had the middle slip differentials that were any good were actually the G cars or the government cars. So the God cars. 1950s 500 horsepower pieces of shit, basically. 1940s. They weren't really all that great. Like supersized Buicks, basically. Hey, whatever. Same thing that the cops would use later on. So anyway, if you're wondering about history and why it's so confusing, well, that's why. There are 30 JFK clones running around destroying the world and trying to lie and say that there's only one of them or two of them at most. Or they had a brother. But there's actually 30 of them. So anyway, and that's why everybody was so confused about what the hell was going on throughout time and space and basically in the past history. So anyway, 1920 was the first, or 1850 was the first cloning experiment. Somewhere around 1850 to 1920. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, pretty much it. So like I said, it wasn't really, I don't know about Adolf Hitler. There was a black Adolf Hitler that was really bad. Basically, they pretty much gave some guy named Adolf Himmler, and then they changed his name to Adolf Hitler, and basically said he owned a lot of stuff in Germany, but basically he didn't. And then a bunch of people ran around. Eventually, later on, some rappers start running around Germany or Russia, and basically going door to door, house to house, pretty much just shooting their way past the guards. But of course, like I say, they encountered some of my heavier duty stuff. Like I said, I had a couple spots where it's like, and they're like cannon. Like there's a guard check, and then after that there's a cannon. So because they were military bases and my cannon sites. So yeah, there were quite a few pictures of basically blown up cars when they basically shot their way past the guard post, thinking that was it, and then they rounded the corner and then cannon, boom. So it'd get them every time. Anyway, eventually though they take down the cannon. Though they hit the place from the side, of course. But they lose a few people first. There's a few times in my life when I've been like, I'm so glad I'm psycho military.